Hey guys, welcome back to AKFPL. This is the Game Week 27 preview. Game Week 26 is currently going on at the moment, so we'll look at how my team's doing so far, and then we'll look ahead to Game Week 27 as well. So at the time of recording, there's still a few games going on. We've got Aston Villa who are currently playing, and Leicester as well. So at the moment I'm on 78 points. It hasn't been updated yet to update my rank. So my rank so far registers at 74 points. But the biggest talking point for me this week was that I played my triple captaincy. So I put it on Kane, as I said I would do on the last video. And I made one free transfer, which was Calvert-Lewin in for Danny Ings. So we'll just go through the team so far and how they've done. So at the back, started with double Villa defence with Martinez and Target. So they did really well against Leeds. They got a clean sheet each. Martinez coming out with a 10-pointer, such a hero for the season. Still surprised that he's not over 50% owned by now. He's just climbing up to 40%. He's 39.1 at the moment. So I think if you haven't got Martinez, it must be so frustrating, the fact that he just keeps getting these clean sheets almost every other week. Bit of a shame that he's lost it against Sheffield today, but didn't expect him to get a clean sheet against Leeds. So basically, it worked out in the end because I was expecting the clean sheet against Sheffield instead, so it doesn't really matter. Matt Target, again, clean sheet, which is pretty good, really good value, so quite like the Villa defence going forward. Also play double Man City defence, which was a bit underwhelming actually in the end because they didn't keep a clean sheet for either of their games, which is quite surprising. So Diaz gets a goal, which I was ecstatic with, but then Stones got a goal anyway, so it kind of cancelled out the advantage there, so didn't really make up much ground with that. And then Cancelo gets rested in the first game, but then he plays in the second game, and then Stones gets rested in the second game. So I thought, okay, this is good because I've now got two Man City defenders playing, and people who've gone with Stones will just have one playing if they've gone with Stones and Cancelo. But then Man City lose their clean sheet against Wolves, so I didn't really capitalise on that either. So that's a bit of a shame. Because I think if they kept a clean sheet against Wolves, that really would have pushed me up the ranks a little bit more against the people who just had Stones. So in terms of the rest of the squad, we've got Spurs, who had a really good performance against Burnley, beating them 4-0. And even though they beat Burnley 4-0, I'm still a bit disappointed by the results in terms of my triple captaincy because Kane only scored once, which was frustrating, as he definitely could have had more in that game. But at least he didn't blank. I suppose when you play a triple captaincy, what you want is for your captain to at least return in some form. So at least he gets a goal and he's got another game going against Fulham. So hopefully he can do well against that. We saw in that game, Bale was actually the star of the show. And even Son did well, picked up a couple of assists and bonus points there. So Spurs been looking pretty good lately in their Europa League game, but also against Burnley. So there's been a lot of discussion about tripling up on their attack, so we'll touch on to that in the preview for Game Week 27. But let's just look at the rest of the team as well. Fernandes, blanked, not great, but we all expected the Chelsea United game to be either low scoring or a 0-0, so didn't expect much there. A bit surprising that Salah blanked actually against Sheffield. So, going into this double game week, I would have thought that the Sheffield game was the one where Salah could at least get some points for me, and maybe he's probably not going to do much against Chelsea, but you never know. So Salah at the moment is going a little bit off. Hasn't had a double-digit return now in quite a few game weeks. So the only reason I'm probably going to be keeping him is because his fixtures up until the end of the season is actually really good. Even though he does blank in game week 29, I think he's probably just going to stay in my team. A few people are already looking to transfer him out, but I think I'm going to hold. And then the rest of the team, Gundogan picking up an assist in his second game, gets rested, but still comes on as a sub and picks up an assist, which is good. So we'll talk about him later on. And probably the other disappointing player in my team is Calvert-Lewin. So I brought him in with my free transfer, thinking that he had two really good fixtures against Southampton and West Brom. But he blanks in the Southampton game. He's still got West Brom to go, so hoping for at least something from him in the last game, because the other transfer I was thinking about, obviously at the time after my wildcard, was to bring in Watkins, and he at least got an assist in his first game. So not being the greatest transfer so far, but let's see how he does against West Brom. A lot of people jumped on the Leicester bandwagon. So they brought in the likes of Barnes, Pereira. And I think if you brought in Barnes, you were just really unlucky with his injury. But now, there is a question mark about Leicester, how effective they are going forward as an attacking unit. So something to keep an eye on there. I think if you're looking at Barnes replacements, you'd be thinking about the likes of Grealish. So just keep an eye out for him to see if he's still fit for the next game. People are getting in players like Lingard, who has shown really good attacking promise since he came to West Ham. And I think someone else I'd put in that price bracket is probably someone like Mason Mount, who's looking pretty integral to Tuchel's side. So you can look at players like those in those sort of price bracket. So overall, pretty happy with the game week so far. 78 points, which is currently live. Currently, in terms of my rank, I've gone up from 5.8k to 3.4k. So that's a decent green arrow. It's about a 40% rise. And yeah, so now let's look ahead to game week 27. So this is how my team shaped up for game week 27, and it's looking good apart from maybe Fernandes against City. But otherwise, all the other fixtures for my players look pretty good. I've gone for double City defense again at the back and double Villa defense. So let's just touch on City first. So the problem with City is in the double game week, it's really hard to know which player is going to play twice, apart from maybe their goalkeeper Edison. So Diaz and Kevin De Bruyne played twice, which is good. So I think Diaz is probably a candidate to play twice again. So you'd think he'd play in the harder fixture against Man U, and if he's going to get a rest, it's probably going to be against Southampton. But so far, he's been, Pep's been playing him pretty much every game. I think he just likes to have Diaz in the back line just to solidify the whole team. So I think Diaz might play twice. Cancelo, again, you'd think he'd play twice because he's had his rest now, but you just never know with Pep Roulette. And at the moment, I'm just going to go with the double Man City defense, because if I can get 3 out of 4 games between them, then I'll be pretty happy. They've still got a good chance of getting 2 clean sheets in these games, even though they didn't keep any clean sheets in this double game week. That's just gone. So at the moment, I'm holding with them. I think people with the likes of Stones are getting a bit of cold feet about him because Laporte has been featuring a lot more in the back line. So I think Diaz is a hold. Cancelo, again, people are getting a little bit frustrated. Only 2 points in the double game week isn't great for someone where you're paying 6+ million for. So people perhaps looking to offload Cancelo as well, but I'm pretty happy to keep at the moment. Don't really need to be making any aggressive transfers. So I've got Man City defense at the back, and I've also got my double Villa defense as well, who I think have been on the whole pretty good this whole season. And I mean, they've kept second most clean sheets after Man City, and I think a lot of people already have Martinez, up to 40% of managers. So just having Martinez on itself probably isn't the best way to differentiate yourself. So on my wildcard, I brought in Matt Target. I've doubled up on the Villa defense. He's also going to play in Game Week 29. So if you've got double Villa defense, their run-in is actually pretty good. So after the double game week, they've got Newcastle away. They've got Wolves at home in Game Week 27, and then Newcastle away. So 2 pretty good fixtures. Then they play in Game Week 29. Okay, it's against Tottenham, so not the best fixture. But then they've got Fulham at home in Game Week 30. So really good time to bring in some Villa defenders or just Villa players in general. So I've gone for double Villa defense at the back. Midfield, I'm playing pretty much all my usual heavy hitting players, and also Rafinha. The reason I'm playing Rafinha is because I just thought Calvert-Lewin against Chelsea, I'm not really expecting anything from him. Even though Everton can score pretty much against everyone. I think Chelsea have got a really good defensive unit at the moment, not conceding any goals so far. And Tuchel so far still is unbeaten in the league and in the, so far since the start of Chelsea. So I'm benching Calvert-Lewin. I'm going to play Rafinha. So I really am relying on a bit of a Leeds performance here against West Ham, but that's fine. Happy to play Rafinha when I can. And up front, I've gone for Kane and Bamford again. And my bench is going to be Dallas first sub, Calvert-Lewin, and then Burn. So if we look at the key fixtures this week, obviously we're going to be talking about the Man City double game week. So they're playing Man United and Southampton at home. So the first fixture against Man United, for me, that's probably going to be a low-scoring game or a draw. But obviously it's Man City, you can never really tell. But really it's the second game against Southampton, which I'd be targeting. So there's been a lot of talk about Kevin De Bruyne. He started the last 2 games. He's played 90 minutes in both games, so he's back to full fitness. The only question I have with him is, okay, he's played the last 2 games. He's probably going to play against Man United because that's the important game to win. Okay, so let's say he plays against Man United. Then they've got a fixture against Southampton, which is seemingly an easier fixture. So my worry with Kevin De Bruyne is he's going to be rested in the Southampton game. So, if you're going to bring in and captain a player like him, you want him to be playing both games, and you want him to be playing in the easier game, not the hard game. So that's the only reason that puts me off Kevin De Bruyne. But otherwise, he's a really, really good transfer if you can make it happen. So alternatively, and we'll touch on this a bit later again, I've got Gundogan. Now, he's been rested against Wolves. So can never predict with Pep rotation, but my prediction would be that he plays the next two games. I think he'll play the Man United game because that's the difficult game, and I think there's a good chance he plays against Southampton because he's already had his rest, right? So my personal opinion is if you've got Gundogan, just keep him. I think he's a good captaincy shout as well. That's probably who I'm going to be going with. Aside from Man City, I mean, the other team is Southampton, who've got 2 game weeks, 2 double games coming up. So if you've got the likes of Vestergaard or Danny Ings, you're really only hoping for returns in their first game because you'd be lucky to get anything out of this Man City game. But you never know. But I think if you've got them, you can play them and just hope for the best. But I personally wouldn't be bringing any of them in so far. And the other key fixture for this week is probably going to be Spurs against Crystal Palace, right? So Spurs, really impressive performance against Burnley. And Palace are just in absolutely dreadful form. And I can see Spurs winning this game by at least a couple of goals. So there's a lot of talk about tripling up on the Spurs attack. Mourinho has said that he's going to find it hard to play the likes of Bale every week. So a lot of people are very impressed with Gareth Bale in the last game against Burnley, 19 points. And they're now considering bringing him in, actually. So I personally wouldn't do it just because of what Mourinho said. And, is he really going to be playing week in, week out? He's got a very prominent injury record as well, so a bit of a maverick move, but has been shown this week that it can pay dividends. So good shout if you're thinking about it. I think if you're going for other Spurs players, you can think of the likes of Reguilon. So he's a really good differential. Spurs have a decent chance of keeping clean sheets, and he gets really forward as well. So very, very attacking down that left-hand side. So Reguilon is one that I'd consider if you're looking for some sort of Spurs defender or Spurs coverage at the back. And in terms of looking to sort of buck the template a bit, so there's a very fixed template going on, which is pretty much these heavy hitters I've got at the moment with Kane up front, Bamford, double city defence. So I think if you do want to buck the trend a bit, you need to be looking at taking punts here. And I think the best punts for this week would be De Bruyne, who's got double game week potentially because he's going to play twice, and Bale. So they could be really good transfers. And people are looking to moving away from one of their other heavy hitters to get these two in. So it's pretty good if you want to really climb the ranks because not many people are going to be doing these kind of moves, but it does come at the expense of obviously removing a really good heavy hitter that you might have. So people are looking at Fernandes. He's got Man City away, and then he's got West Ham at home again, tricky defence there. Then he blanks in game week 29. So people are looking to see if they can offload Fernandes for at least the next 3 games and bring in the lights of either De Bruyne or Bale and capitalise on those fixtures. So personally, I'm just not inclined to do that because I'm quite happy to just play safe at the moment and try and climb the ranks slowly. But I think if you really do want to take a shot at jumping the ranks, those are the kind of moves that you need to be thinking about. So my current transfer plans is doing nothing this week. Actually, I'm just going to hold my transfer, roll it to next week because I think I'm in pretty good shape for this week. And there's no need for me to do anything too drastic at the moment. Captaincy, so if we're going to look at the captains now, I've currently gone out on Gundogan because I think he's going to play both games since he's just had his rest. If you're going to look at other City players, you can think about defenders, maybe Diaz or Edison. Again, they've got good chance of playing both games. Kevin De Bruyne, I've mentioned it before. I just don't know if he's going to play both games at the moment. If he does, then it's obviously a really good choice for captaincy. So aside from Man City, there's also a very good argument of captaining a Spurs player. Now, they've just got one single game week, okay? But we've just seen them demolish teams like Burnley 4-0, and we've seen how well Bale is integrated into their first 11. So if Bale plays against Crystal Palace, and they've got Kane and Son as well, I predict another demolition job here. So Kane, Son, Bale, all good candidates for captaincy this week. I've got my vice captaincy on Kane, but I think Son and Bale could also just do just as good of a job as well. And you might argue as well that Man City have 2 games, but the game against Man United probably isn't going to be high scoring. It could be, but probably not. So really, you're comparing Man City against Southampton versus Spurs and Crystal Palace, and that is pretty comparable. But, not many people like the idea of going against a double game week player. So, if you've got Gundogan, I think he's really a good choice for this week. And he's absolutely smashed it in the 2 double game weeks that Man City have had so far. He got 18 and 19 points in the last 2 double game weeks for Man City. So that itself sells it for me. The fact that he's had a rest recently also sells it for me. So I'm going to go with Gundogan, vice captaincy on Kane. So really it's between Man City and Spurs if you're really considering captaincy for this week. But I'll leave it there. Tell me what you guys think of my team. Summary is captaincy Gundogan, holding the free transfer, rolling it to next week. Hope you guys all have a really good game week going ahead. Thanks for listening. If you've got any questions, just let me know in the comments. Happy to give advice on your teams. If you're new around here, please like the video and subscribe. Leave it, share to social media networks. And I'll see you all in the next game week.